I just want to put a cherry on top of the Sabonis Sam Amick article story. I think the biggest reason I have confidence, and maybe I'm being naive, in Sabonis staying here long term is, and by the way, a lot can happen between now and then that we're not thinking about. What if he doesn't play well? What if there's an injury? What if he's playing really well and we trade him again?
Sure.
What if? I mean, there's a lot of other stuff. It doesn't just
we know Monty McNair's not afraid to make moves.
No,
right?
And 2 years is a long time, but it's not. I mean, he traded Tyrese Halliburton in under 2 years.
That's insane.
But I'm just saying.
Yeah, he doesn't care if he can improve the team or feels he can improve the team. He's going to make the move.
And I love that.
We said it. He's not emotionally attached to his guys.
No, and you know that because of the Halliburton move. But here's the reason why I try to calm Kings fans down when it comes to that. Do I know that Domantas Sabonis is going to stay? Of course I don't. But I would go back through the history of the Kings, as I often invite people to do. The Kings that can't sign impact free agents. Mm-hmm. The Kings that are not a destination city. The Kings that have been almost entirely in their Sacramento career history a losing team.
What's the statistic without Rick Adelman?
They've never been above 500.
Yeah. For never. 29 years, correct?
Yes. Wait, 29.
29.
They've been here since 85.
Right, so this is year 37.
Oh, you're saying 29 years of being below I got you. Okay. 29
Which
of
is
what?
A lot, by the way.
That's a lot.
Of 37 is a lot.
Okay. How many players have left here because they just were tired of the Kings and losing and anything else? How many players have just said, I want it? I need. By the way, one of them just happened, Marvin Bagley. I count that as somebody who just wanted out of here. And by the way, I don't blame him, and I don't blame the franchise.
I don't like to count Marvin because really Marvin is at this point a role player in his career. Role players to me don't count.
But I'm just saying he's still a guy. Okay, I'm trying to be.
I understand what you're doing.
Trying to be fair.
I know you're trying to be fair, but when we look at this is a star. This is your number one guy.
Okay,
so let's use that argument.
Okay, fine. So let's look at your top flight players the Kings have had.
Mm-hmm.
Rudy Gay re-signed.
Rudy Gay. I know
fine.
it's all relative, and I'm not trying to be difficult here. I just look at like Rudy Gay's a non-all-star.
DeMarcus was
ready to sign a max.
Ready to sign a max deal.
Super max. So that's a fair argument.
Kevin Martin, towards the tail end of the Kings.
I think he wanted out. When they drafted Tyreek, I think he was kind of over it.
But at the same time,
again, Kevin Martin also not an all-star.
But at the same time, the Kings traded him.
Sure.
Players don't generally, and this is maybe the weirdest statistic about the Kings. Players don't historically want to come here. Harry Giles, when he got drafted, people dug up the tweets. I'm in Sacramento. I don't remember the exact words, but I was like, I'm in Sacramento. It's boring. This sucks.
Which is true in a lot. Go ahead.
Okay, but then Harry immediately, I'm sure from a PR standpoint, had to clean that up. But then, does anybody doubt that Harry Giles fell in love with Sacramento?
No, and I
loved it.
I think your overall point is that players fall in love when they come here, right?
Yeah, players fall in love because this is what a basketball town should be. And I think that it's not BS when they say, because they know.
Right. But again, everything is relative. And I agree with what you're saying is guys tend to really enjoy it here because once you actually get into Sacramento, it's a very unique city. One of our big bosses said this, and I completely agree. From a California standpoint, it has almost a Midwestern vibe.
It very much does.
And people like that because it's chill, but it's also not. There's stuff to do now.
Yes.
There's stuff surrounding you. It's a really cool place to live.
I've said this before. I lived in Omaha, Nebraska for 2 years, and it's the closest place I've ever been. It's very similar to anyone who's coming from them. And I'm not talking about Chicago Midwest. I'm talking about the Heartland Midwest. Right. This is very similar.
And all I will say is this. I agree. However, when it comes to a star player, we've only been in this situation a handful of times.
Correct.
Mitch Richmond ended up staying here, but again, the NBA was run a little differently back then.
Chris Webber and the lawn mowing.
But they were good.
Right.
They were good, and that's it. That's the thing. Yeah. The only other real shining star example is DeMarcus, but DeMarcus also wanted a supermax. DeMarcus wasn't saying no to the money. Hold
on. Webber isn't an example?
No, because Webber, the team was winning. Because
you're okay.
I'm talking about with the team being garbage and the star players staying. There's only a few examples of
I don't
history.
think it's blue sky, and I don't think it's a Disney thing like I love to do, to say that players come here and they fall in love with the city.
I agree.
They fall in love with the fans, and there is something about them knowing that they are walking gods if they are a part of a successful Sacramento Kings team.
That's my point. If this team, and when we mean successful, success is relative in this market, right?
Yeah.
If that team is over the next 2 seasons around like 7 or 8 going for the playoffs every year, I think Sabonis stays. What I'm saying is if this team continues to be sub 35 wins over the next 2 seasons, he's gone. I believe that. Even if he loves the city and loves the fans, he's gone. And people need to prepare for that. But to kind of get back to the old overarching point is I think we finally have a general manager that is capable of putting proper pieces around those guys. Now that he kind of has his key cogs with De'Aaron and DeMontis, and again, either of them can get traded at any point. Sure. But I will say this. I have more faith in Monty McNair than I ever had in Vlade or Pete D'Alessandro.
Well, we have the best guy in that seat since Jeff Petrie.
And that article that we're referencing on The Athletic about DeMontis mentions Wes Wilcox, who's very active as an assistant general manager.
Well, a former NBA agent.
Very well seasoned as a front office executive. Yes. Again, we've never, even with Vlade didn't really have a bunch of well-seasoned guys underneath him.
No, he didn't.
Pete D'Alessandro did not have a lot of well-seasoned guys underneath him.
He was a rookie who, that whole era in itself was terrible.
Sure.
For many reasons.
But you have a guy who, yes, Monty is a rookie GM, so to speak, but they put the proper pieces underneath him, I think, for him to be successful.
No, I think so, too. And by the way, Monty's also a rookie. But Monty went through the Daryl Morey, Sam Hinkie school of general managing.
Correct.
And so he understands. And by the way,
which is star players win basketball games.
And played wide receiver in college football.
And high school. We have the pictures.
Yes, we do. And writes programs for his fantasy football league so that they can follow it easier.
Probably is also a great chef.
But right. And my point is about Monty McNair is that he's the quintessential, he ain't perfect, but you're talking about a guy that speaks nerd and jock.
No GM is perfect. Every GM has blemishes on their record. Jerry West has blemishes on his record.
Another guy, by the way, that could really speak jock in the quote nerd role. It does.
It's
help.
A nice hybrid.